Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to welcome you to session 2 of this conference, Climate and Community, le climat, Tous, ensemble, which is organized by the Institute of International and European Affairs and the French Embassy in Ireland. This session will address the role that the business community can play in achieving sustainability and decarbonisation targets. It has been said that while others discuss targets and develop policies and model outcomes, parts of the business world have shown considerable enlightened leadership in implementing real sustainable actions. Over the next hour, we will hear from two distinguished business executives, Bastien Grandgeorge, Chief Executive of Decathlon Ireland, and David McRedmond, CEO of Tous. The speakers will address the challenges and the opportunities of aligning business models with the commitment of net zero emissions and the development of comprehensive sustainability strategies to meet the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. After these two keynote presentations, we will go to a Q&A session with you, our audience. You will be able to join the discussion using the Q&A function on Zoom, which you should see on your screen. Feel free to send your questions in throughout the session as they occur to you. And please identify yourself and any affiliation when you ask a question. I should remind you that the entire conference, including the Q&A sessions, will be on the record today. Feel free to join the discussion on Twitter using the hashtag #ClimateCommunity. Now let me introduce our first keynote speaker of the session. Bastien Grandgeorge is the Chief Executive of Decathlon Ireland and was responsible for the opening of the new flagship store in Dublin in 2020. He has worked with Decathlon International for the last 15 years, during which time he established and grew Decathlon's presence in the Czech Republic and in Singapore. Decathlon has committed that by 2026, renewable electricity will power 100% of its stores and warehouses, and that 100% of its products are designed in accordance with an eco-design approach by 2026. Decathlon is a member of the Net Zero Initiative, which helps organizations describe and organize their climate action and is committed to be carbon neutral by 2050. Bastien, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Owen, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share some concrete desire from Decathlon to participate to the huge stake we have, a worldwide stake we have of climate change. I was very inspired, like many of you, I can imagine, this morning. And as a private company, Decathlon, we are conscious that we have a lot to do and to face this big challenge. So before going in my keynote, I would like to give my expression of humility before all the things I will share with you, because we are conscious at Decathlon that the impact of our activity on the planet is real, it's concrete. We are 100,000 sport people in the company. We are selling 1.2 billion quantity throughout our network of 1,700 stores. So definitely the impact of our product is huge on the planet. So maybe we can illustrate that with a short video, a 2-minute video, and I will come back on the main stake and strategy to tackle this challenge.
Every day at Decathlon, we observe, we listen, we visualize, we design, we test, we make, we sell. But every day at Decathlon, we create waste. We use the planet's resources. We're responsible for products traveling long distances. We use energy. We impact. So, we act. Since 1986, Decathlon has organised the Trocathlon, an initiative created by Giles to give a new lease of life to thousands of items of sportswear. In 2007, Decathlon St Quentin became the first store with an environmental approach, thanks to Isabel's energy. In 2013, in Salanches, Couture created the 4-Class 50 fleece, made from recycled plastic bottles, an idea of Emmanuel's, head of textile products. In 2018, Inigo, Sustainable Development Leader for Spain, transformed the offcuts of fabric used to manufacture technical clothing into bags for customers. In 2019, Sebastian, a store manager in Monaco, decided to ban plastic bottles in his store. In 2020, drawing inspiration from all existing initiatives, Marie makes giving Decathlon products possible on a large scale. It means our sports equipment can be put to different uses and can equip people in need. Each of these initiatives was led by an employee. At Decathlon, we've always known how to shake things up. But there's still plenty to do to ensure that sport creates a better world. It's our turn.
So with this short movie introduction of our topic, of climate change and Decathlon impact on the planet, I would like to emphasize three main things. First, I would like to speak globally about our strategy. We share among our 60 countries, among our Decathlon United Network, as we call it. And secondly, I will come on some concrete example on what we can do on the product to minimize the impact on the planet. And lastly, I will try to illustrate some concrete action we do locally in Ireland since we implemented the company 3 years ago to participate to this big challenge we all face in climate change. So first, in terms of strategies, and to speak about global Decathlon United commitment, as it said in the video, we committed like all of us, we are committed to neutral carbon impact in 2050, and we are sporty people. So we are internally challenging ourselves to reach this target before. We would like to reach it 10 years before, but of course we know that the challenge we face is huge. Indeed, we are pursuing our goal, which is to make the sport practice more easy and to make accessible the sport to everybody. So that means that anyway, our business model is impacted by the sale of products everywhere in the world. So we believe that thanks to the development of sport practice, we will make the life better in this planet. This is good, we think, in a sustainability axis, but on the other side, we know that selling 1.2 billion quantity, transporting them around the world, we know that the impact is very important. So when we decided to jump on this very huge challenge of the transformation of our business model, we were back 10 years before, in 2009 roughly, when we designed the first eco-friendly packaging and product. But we really accelerated our engagement in 2016 when we wrote our transition plan that include all the sustainability part, like many other companies. But including in this transition part, we got involved 30,000 decathlonians around the world to write what will be our main principles to reduce the impact on our planet. One of the main decision was to ensure that the impact per product sold will be reduced by 40% between 2016 and 2026. So because the deadline of 2050 is too far away for us, we are short term in our industry. We are short term with our employment. So we have to act short term as well. So the milestone of reducing by 40% the carbon print by 2026 is part of our main KPI and criteria of performance we manage on a daily, monthly, and yearly basis for our 97,000 employees in the world. As an example, I can tell you that 30% of our salary is indicated by our capacity to develop our strategy on planet. So we have to get involved to reduce the carbon print. After a second part, to speak about the products, you must know, I would like to share that 82% of the carbon print we generate, and as a reminder, we generate 9 million tons per year of CO2. So it's huge. We have to tackle that. But when we analyze this based on a science-based target back in 2017, we know exactly, and we can assess where does this emission come from. So now it's clear that 82% of our emission are coming from the product. So, and when 20% are coming from the transportation of our customers to come in our stores or our building, like you can see in the background. So we decided back in 2016 to focus on a principal action to try to tackle faster our emission. So that's why we developed two axes of action. The first on products, and the second on our building and people. On products, very important, we launched 9 years ago, we launched a big program of transition to develop eco-design in our manufacturing. Because at Decathlon, we sell roughly 15,000 different references. We design them, we manufacture them, and after we distribute them. So when we must be accountable on the way we produce and we manufacture the product. So we decided that by 2026, 100% of our product will be eco-design. So that means that in the conception of the product, we take in consideration the future impact of the product during its whole life. So we are, of course, it took time because the lifetime to design a product and to put it on our network, it takes 2 years in average for one product. So the results are just starting at the moment, but we are ramping up. I'm very happy to tell you that last year, 6% of our sales were driven by eco-design product in store, like a Polar Fleece 100% with a recycled bottle, for example, or recently we had a new bike for fitness with 60% of wood inside. So all these initiatives help us to drive some performance in eco-design products. So we have a lot to do, but we are ramping up. Last year, 6% of our sales in eco-design product. This year, in 2021, we expect 12% and 30% by the end of next year. So we are on the way, but we are conscious that the main stake is the way we design and manufacture the product. Thirdly, I would like to highlight what we can do locally to try to minimize our impact. Of course, locally in Ireland, as a country leader myself, we must, and we try to do it, minimize our impact by with many aspects, knowing that the building and transportation of our product and customers is waiting for 20% of our gas emission. We can work on that. So that's why in our network of store in the world, we committed to supply with 100% renewable energy in less than 2 years. So we are on track to do that. It's not always easy, but as an example, in Dublin, in the flagship store we have in my background, from the day one, we are supplying with 100% renewable energy, and 20% of this energy is driven by a total of 800 square meters solar panel on the roof. And also we try to invest locally to reduce the impact. For example, such a building like the one at the back is BREEAM certified. So that means that we build it with a conscious investment to reduce the impact on the environment. Lastly, important to share that we are driven by the responsibility we share in our internal values at Decathlon. We have almost 100,000 people, and as you saw in the video, we believe that everybody can raise a hand and try to participate to organize small actions. For example, we decided in Dublin not to sell any water bottle, still water bottle and sparkling water bottle in plastic. Instead, we give for free access to a fountain. It's just a small action, but it's driven by teammates. As well, we organize a green event to clean the surrounding and all that, just to make sure that we can emphasize the playground that make our customer, our teammates, be able to practice sport in a better environment. So that's for my keynotes. I will be very happy to answer your question and to give more detail, because it's a very vast topic. And I think I give back the mic to Owen.
Many thanks indeed. Thank you, Bastien, for really fascinating and I suppose inspirational presentation. There are some questions coming in already. Just a reminder that you can submit your questions through the Q&A function on Zoom, and we'll get to them shortly. But firstly, let me introduce our second keynote speaker of this session. David McRedmond was appointed Chief Executive of An Post in October 2016. He has led the company's transformation program and its return to financial stability, revenue growth, and profit. David is driving An Post's sustainability charter, having positioned 4 of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, specifically climate action, decent work, sustainable cities and communities, and innovations and partnerships at the center of An Post's business transformation strategy. An Post published its first gender pay gap report and action plan in October 2019. It's just one of the decent work initiatives and has recently published its 2020 sustainability report. So I give the floor to David McRedmond, please.
Merci, je suis très honoré de participer à cette conférence organisée par le gouvernement français et l'Institut. Il y a bien longtemps que j'ai présenté ma thèse universitaire qui portait sur la Révolution française. Néanmoins, je suis toujours enchanté de voir cette déclaration d'intérêt national de liberté, égalité, fraternité, qui s'insère parfaitement dans le contexte actuel. An Post is transforming, and at our core is the question of sustainability. This morning, I'll briefly describe An Post's journey before highlighting the 4 key lessons I see for corporate response to climate change. But let me too, like Bastien, begin with a short video.
How do we measure the mark we leave on the world? Is it by what we do? At An Post, we're doing big things. With the largest electric fleet in the country, delivering sustainable e-commerce with 0 emissions. As well as small things, like turning our hands to beekeeping in the fight for biodiversity. Is it by who we empower? With the Green Hub, we're helping people transform their homes for greener living. Or is it by how we give back to our communities? Whether it's check-ins and free postage to care homes to help everyone stay connected. Flying the flag for a new Ireland.
An Post has launched Europe's first fixed address service for the homeless.
Or ensuring those without a home aren't left behind. Living leaves a mark. Together, let's leave one we're proud of. An Post, for your world.
So for many years, postal businesses across the world had been in decline. When I joined An Post in 2016, it was a factor of email and letters moving to that. It was inexorable. So for An Post, actually, our transformation began implicitly with a sustainability question, or maybe even a more existential one. What would our future be? We fixed the short-term economics by increasing prices, and then we developed a strategy to take advantage of the emerging world of e-commerce and financial services. And thanks to our great employees and customers, we found new sources of growth. And since 2017, as Owen said, we've grown revenues each year, and bar the costs of COVID last year, we've been strongly profitable. And Post had been one of the first companies in Ireland, well before my time, to take sustainability as an issue. But the acceleration into climate action, like many of the best moves in business, was opportunistic. We were making the transition from a letter-centric business to e-commerce parcel business, and you can't easily deliver parcels and bicycles. So one morning I got a purchase order across my desk for 750 new diesel vans and for the streets of Dublin. And in all conscience, I said, that is just not something I can do. And I said, could we get electric vehicles? And they went away and very properly came back and said, yes, we'll get 10 electric vehicles and 740 diesel vehicles. And I said, well, do the electric vehicles work? Do we approve? And they said, yeah, they work. And I said, why don't we go big for it? Let's get the 750 vehicles, and we did. And so last year, Dublin became the first city anywhere with zero emission postal deliveries. And today you'll see our electric vans and trikes being rolled across all the cities in Ireland. But once our new strategy was established, we took a more systemic approach to sustainability, defining our purpose, setting our goals, and moving really from kind of instinctive opportunism into explicit design and action. At the heart of any real sustainability program for corporates is purpose. And in Post, we've not had to stray too far for our purpose. It's in the DNA of our postmen and postwomen, of our fantastic postmasters and postmistresses. But we've explicitly defined this now: to act for the common good now and for generations to come. And so within that purpose statement lies literally our definition of sustainability, which is the horizon for generations to come. And since then, our journey has been obvious, systematized reference to best practice. We've adopted, actually it's 5 of the Sustainable Development Goals. Climate action, 23% carbon reduction since 2009. We'll be 50% reduced by 2025, and we'll be net zero by 2030. Just to know what that journey involves, to get to that net zero, we have to find electric heavy goods vehicles, because 10,000 tons of our remaining 19,000 tons of annual emissions come from our heavy goods fleet. But that's the sort of target that we have. It's ambitious, and it's aligned with the Science-Based Target Initiative of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. The second area is decent work. And each of these sustainable goals are integrated with each other. And decent work, a living wage, pension, care and dignity at work. Gender pay, extremely important. We're at 1.4% gender pay gap. We will eliminate that. We are doing well on that. We've moved to 50-50 in our management in terms of gender balance. And we are very focused now on exceeding a 5% target for employing people with disabilities. And we're going to launch the Green Institute, which is our learning institute for all staff. The third one, sustainable cities and communities. Every community over 500 is a post office. We've done things such as given homeless people addresses and address point, and we call in on the elderly on our routes. Responsible consumption, zero waste to landfill. We've achieved our ISO standards. To be honest, this is the area we have a lot of work still to do, particularly around the circular economy. That's going to be a real issue for us to answer that. And I can't even answer it now, how we are going to, how far up the supply chain to go. And then the final one, collaboration and innovation. And our capital investment and sustainability initiatives will be over 100 million euros by 2025. And we want to be ranked in the top 5 postal companies in the world. In sustainability, we're currently just outside the top 10. So that's on Post, but from our experience and from my own experience, I see 4 critical areas for companies to consider in their response to the climate crisis. The first one is this: the new capitalism is here. It's very hard to pinpoint when this quite happened, but I'm long enough in my career. I wasn't quite at work in the 70s, but I did start work in the mid 80s. But if you go back to the 70s, Milton Friedman's vision, created in 1970s America, which was a corporate Bible for decades. Corporations exist to make profit for shareholders. But if we zoom on 50 years later to last year, and we look at the World Economic Forum and their International Business Council has defined the corporation in its recent white paper, Measuring Stakeholder Capitalism. And they say, and I quote, corporate purpose should create value for all stakeholders, including shareholders. That's a very big shift. Now, whether that is a shift born out of necessity or a sense of morality, perhaps isn't the real question. What does matter is to know and accept that the direction of travel is towards a more responsible social view of business. And one more point I should say on that is it makes good business sense. Markets of the present and even more so of the future value sustainability. Wunderman Thompson, who are an agency we work with, their survey, which is done in the UK, the US, and China, shows 86% of businesses show that 86% expect businesses to play their part in solving climate change. 71% are more likely to buy from businesses that make a strong commitment to equality. 79% are interested in advice on companies on how to live more sustainably. And most importantly for us, 72% of Gen Z say they would not work for a company that does not have a good record on sustainability. And a critical mass of companies are coming on board in a different way. 60 companies have signed up to that World Economic Forum stakeholder capitalism metrics. If you look at L'Oreal, for example, 97% of strategic partners are selected on the basis of strategic and environmental performance. An interesting one in an adjacent industry, in 2020, ASOS and Zalando dropped Boohoo after allegations of low pay and poor work practices. The second point is to embed sustainability in the whole organization. A great friend of mine, Edie Lush, who runs the UN Global Comcast, reminded me the story of Emmanuel Faber, the star CEO of Danone and a world leader in sustainability in business. But earlier this year, he was fired by the board because he didn't have the widespread support of his management team and obviously didn't have the support of the board. Gillian Tesh from the Financial Times has written on this and points out the battle for ESG is that it rests on the G, on the governance word. And activist investors are saying, and I quote, sustainability has been used as an excuse for less than dazzling governance or management, unquote. Separately, a well-known skeptic of ESG at Harvard, Lucian Bebchuk, found that only 2 of the CEOs who signed the Business Roundtable letter, famous letter in the United States, had actually consulted their board. So the lesson is clear, and I spoke earlier this week at the Chartered Governance Institute. While sustainability shouldn't be ghettoized like CSR was in the past, nor should it be the preserve of a charismatic CEO. It must be led from the top. The governance must ensure its integration systemically. On Post, it's core to our brand, so much of it is led by Debbie Byrne in her chief marketing role. Nicola Woods, chief transformation officer, leads on policy implementation. Our CFO, Peter Quinn, wrote the first sustainability report. So in short, it's ubiquitous. The third area is that while this is principally about what can business do, we also need government to play its part, and government needs to do more than set targets. For many years, dating back to Thatcherism, the policy and regulatory frameworks of government, certainly in this part of the world, have tended to be to promote competition. And in many ways, a pro-competition environment has created choice and lower prices for consumers. But climate action and sustainability don't sit necessarily that easily in a purely pro-competition environment. So for government, firstly, standards need to be in place. And I'm not just talking about environmental standards, but for example, employment standards. If and on Post, we invest in professional postmen and women and new visibly branded electric vehicles for a safe and clean delivery network, how can we compete on price with a hodgepodge gig economy of unregulated workers driving 15-year-old diesel vehicles rushing to make their piecemeal income. Gig economy is not sustainable. It exploits regulatory loopholes for ultra-cheap labor and relies on the rest of society to fund pensions, healthcare, etc. A good app is not an excuse for lousy labor practices. Let me also state this. Any company which makes super profits or bonuses for executives by driving down the unit cost of labor should be shamed. I am all for efficiency and productivity, and Post has seen the largest increase in productivity of any postal service in Europe over the past 5 years, other than Deutsche Post. But workers deserve to share in the increased prosperity of companies and the economy. How can we sustain community if workers cannot afford homes or to feed and educate their families? And then government policy also needs to encourage and reward network and infrastructure investment. The blind encouragement of retail competition has eroded the value of networks and telecoms, transport and logistics, allowing resellers to make a quick buck, while communities are deprived of essential services. And this isn't anti-capitalist. Ryanair, for example, I believe are quite right to stop resellers online of its service, skimming margin for no investment. They don't buy the planes, they don't set up the routes, they don't establish the bases. So the pandemic has taught us that networks, infrastructure, and good employees with dignity at work are core to a sustainable society. And by the way, just one more specific piece in climate action, there's no approved domestic offsetting system in Ireland, and a government-approved system could help generate the potential to move into negative emissions like Microsoft are claiming to do from 2030. The final point I'd make then is, controversially, I'd say yes to greenwashing. I dislike the cynicism of greenwashing, but I dislike more the cynicism towards greenwashing. Alan Jope, the CEO of Unilever, describes their strategy as, and I quote, first get our own house in order, then get our supply chain in order, then our brands, and finally advocacy. The brands and advocacy are what might be called greenwashing, but alternatively could be described as just good marketing in connection with customers. You know, our research tells us that consumers prioritize themselves, but they have a universal recognition the need to do more as individuals. So we need to communicate and educate. At the start of the pandemic, we gave every household free postcards as an expression of social solidarity. That matters. It's not going to solve the climate issue, but it is going to help the sense of community that underpins the actions that are required to solve climate. Even more superficial example, we're looking at painting our letterboxes with carbon-eating paint. It's going to remove hardly any carbon from the atmosphere, but it will get every school kid drawing pictures of post boxes eating the carbon monster. We know that to achieve our net zero emissions by 2030, we need to find electric HGVs, amongst other things, and we also have a responsibility to engage citizens. We do this in a substantial way, as with our Green Hub, which you saw on the video, but we make no apology for using our imagination to promote a green agenda in the most human way possible. And that's the emphasis in our annual sustainability report, where we say, for sustainability, read quality of life, where you see carbon footprint, think a healthy island, and for climate action, believe in the joy of future generations. Finally, for all of us, whether you're a business person, a politician, an academic, a worker, I have on my desk currently a great quote that a friend gave me from Marcus Aurelius: be a useful human. And it's a wonderful thought for each of us to have for the generations to come. So thank you very much.
Am I unmuted? Okay, thank you. Fascinating and interesting, the connections between your two quite different approaches, but the crucial, I mean, you put it explicitly, David, the importance of the G in ESG, and it's not just a top-down thing, but a huge engagement of your teams, of your colleagues. If I might go to Bastien firstly, just a point of clarification. Bastien, you referred to 30% of salary depending on was it KPIs or the performance, and how far down in the system does that go, please?
It's just an illustration to show that we receive incentive on our capacity as leader in every country to drive our strategies, to transform strategies which are global to concrete action locally. So every leader, I mean only leader at the moment, but maybe we will go further. We have 30% of our salary, which is calculated based on our commitment of reduction of carbon print. So we have a few criteria. So reduction of carbon print is the sales of eco-design products, and also the last criteria we follow on a monthly basis is our capacity to develop the circular economy performance. I mean, how do we push our channel of sales through to repair, to reuse? That means concretely in store, our capacity to emphasize our workshop to give the opportunity to our customer not just to change their product but to repair them. And I'm very glad to share with you that already in Ireland, after just 1 year of physical presence, we are already in the top 15 of our 70 plus countries in this second-hand in circular economy turnover. So apparently Irish sport people are keen to repair their product in our workshop, maybe more than buy it again.
Great. I have two slightly technical questions for you, Bastien. Firstly, from Odin Reid in the Technological University Dublin, could you make your buildings net energy producers using wind and solar and reduce the hard surface car park with parking with more planting, and maybe use the building for water capture? He suggests that the site in Ballymun really calls for sharing car parking with IKEA.
Yeah. So the impact on our building is important. To give you figures, we are owner of 35% of our building in the world. In Ireland, we decided to invest for life in these countries. That's why we built our own building when we arrived with this flagship. So of course, when we build our own building, we can decide what we invest. And on the question of how far we can go to invest and make the building environmental friendly, it's a local decision. To be honest with you, 2 years ago, when I was in front of my local architects, we balanced all the criteria to reach a very good level at the BREEAM European certification for this building, and we had to choose between different aspects. So, of course, using solar panel, using the wind, using to reuse the water. So, interesting question on car park. Maybe you don't see it when you drive to Ballymun, but we decided with my team to invest in half of the car park is a very high quality of drainage for the water. So you can't see it; it's green, but it's the best quality of drainage, which was I was told much more efficient in terms of gain of energy, sustainability impact than using, for example, wind recuperation system on the car park. So we decided it was a local decision. But half of the car park is already green. I regret I could have done full of that, but that's impact also other points. So we decided to play both on solar panel and green car park.
Great.
But it's green.
It's a nice, because the second question actually has to do with water and on the focus on the product.
Yes.
Luke asks, the clothing industry is one of the most water-intensive industries on earth. You talked about the eco-design strategy for production to take account of future environmental impacts. Does this also consider the impact of the production process as well, such as on water use?
Yeah, so again, with the help of the science-based approach since 2017, we are able to assess process by process the impact of our activity. So I just read the question before, so I went to my figures and to give you the reality. I said that 82% of our carbon was done in product, and the design weighed for 40% of it. So when we speak about the textile, and we have already activated in our strategy to increase the weight of sustainable polyester in our textile. We have thousands of products, of course, references, and we know we have already decided that using 100% of sustainable polyester in the next 2 years to try to reach at least 70% of the polyester used in a textile will help us in 24% in our commitment in the next 2 years. So our designer in our brands are working on that. So that means that they are pushing to include in the process recycled polyester in order to reduce the impact. This is upstream when we manufacture the product. But on the other side, and there was a question on it, there is a big question on what will be the impact at the end of life of the product. And we have a responsibility because selling 1.2 billion quantity in Ireland, it's already we speak about 4 million sport products spread in the country in 1 year. So it's great because that means that people practice more and more sport. But on the other side, the weight on the planet is important. So there is a big stake. We are engaging at the moment on the circular economy. That means to help people to reuse their products. The example of the fleece was just an illustration, but the target is to develop. We have 2 strategies in second hand, so to be able to resell bikes, for example, kids' bikes, we can resell them, and to try to engage our users to come back with their products to resell them instead of throw them out. And we will play a role in this community because our sport hub, we call it sport hub, we can be a good connection point from the user who want to throw out their product and other who are keen to play this second-hand strategy. There is a big trend on it. We can see that we have launched it in many countries, the Decathlon, the second-hand products. There is a very, very big trend on it, and we believe that it will waste a lot in the future.
Thanks very much. David, if I might raise a couple of questions with you. Some of this is from Luca Callan-White, the question that you've outlined the Green Institute that Post is developing for its staff and the accelerated move to zero-emission vehicles. Doesn't Post have a plan to overhaul or retrofit its buildings? But could I also ask you, you have experience now with 750 electric vehicles. From the point of view of others looking in who may be thinking of significant moves, have there been maintenance and, has it been problematic moving in such scale to a lot of electric vehicles? But so your plans for your building, and indeed I think would be interesting also to hear a little more about the Green Institute, please.
So thank you, Owen. Firstly, in terms of our buildings, we are going to have to rebuild most of our buildings because our network was designed as a letters network and it's now becoming a parcels network. So simply the volumetrics are changing. So we've a huge plan to rebuild, amalgamate most of our buildings throughout the country. All of which will be built to the highest standards. We're looking at relocating our HQ, and we want that to be at the platinum standard, which is the highest standard in terms of sustainability. We also want to put solar panels on all our roofs. Our buildings have quite a large footprint, and then we want to be able to feed energy back into the national grid, and that's one of the reasons we want government to make sure to help us by working so that the tariffs are easier, everything's easier to be able to do that. So yeah, we certainly intend to do that. I said that we've 19,000 tonnes of carbon emissions to remove, 10,000 tonnes of the heavy goods vehicles. The other 9,000 are essentially buildings. In relation to the Green Institute is really, in many ways, building on a very old idea that great Victorian companies or Quaker companies in the UK had people like Cadbury, and also companies like WH Smith and Boots and Glaxo, and they always had great development centres. I benefited from them in my career. And here in Post, our fabulous HR team led by Eleanor Nash has put in place management training programs. We have mentoring programs for women in the organization so we can accelerate women faster through the organization, so we can have a gender balance in management. A whole range of programs, and we're putting them together under the Green Institute so that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. It will go all the way through for postmen, postwomen, post office staff, right up, hopefully, to me as CEO. I can do it retraining. And the whole idea is quite a sustainability-driven idea, which is to reskill, retrain as the economy moves towards a digital economy. I think there's, lessons from electric vehicles. The electric vehicles have been fantastic. The payback is very good. It's 2.9 years. They cost more, but they have far less maintenance because they don't have engines, they have motors, they don't have engines, combustion engines in them. So they've proved to be really, that they work really well. The biggest issue, and it has been and still is a big issue for us, is enough charging points, and indeed getting enough parking outside of our delivery units. And so we're desperately trying to get in enough parking, enough charging points. We have electric vehicles. We have electric vehicles in Rossall Airport, which we want to distribute throughout the country. We just need to make sure we've got all the charging points right. So we're putting those in place. So that's probably the biggest issue, but completely solvable.
Great, thank you. As Andrew Gilmore had raised that issue of charging points and to what extent that was an issue. So it's interesting the emphasis that you put on that. If I could turn to you, Bastien, I mean, just in talking about the way in which David is stressing the Green Institute, and that for me one of the most striking points of your presentation was the way in which your staff were empowered to initiate and bring forward ideas. How do you cultivate that kind of engagement? I mean, that commitment to driving the company forward through 97,000 staff.
Yeah, it's a very good question. We are very lucky at Decathlon. We are a team of very sporty guys, very young and sporty guys, and they are, to be honest, they are very sensitive to this topic. Especially the last few years, we can see with the new graduate, they are very, very keen to speak about the impact of such a big company like us before choosing to join us. So when we raise the problem of climate change and the stake of sustainability, actually we just develop a united network. That's how we call it internally. And in every city, every country, we appoint a sustainability leader. So I'm raising this because I am actually recruiting one for Decathlon Ireland after the first year, and just to activate. So at the moment we have internally at Decathlon we have 60 people working exclusively in management, in the animation of this united network, and after locally we have some relay. Just to give you an example, in China, which is a big country for us, we have 15 relay just for sustainability development, and that's helped to share the good practices, to animate the network, and to go fast, to go the fastest we can to tackle this point. Another point on the human side, it's very important to understand that our teammates, they are the best link with our user, because actually it's not the challenge of climate change is something we all share, our users and our teammates as well. And finally, we in our management, for example, our sales advisors in store, their job is to display the product in store. So we just have to make sure in their management that they don't miss to speak about the label, because we have I didn't mention it, but we have a environmental label design with a French and European agency. So to display very well the environment impact on each label in each product, and also to be able to share that stake with the customer to help them to choose the best way to shop in their purchase.
Thank you.
So human is key. Human is key, and but we can see that the topic is just overwhelming. It's not just about sports. It's in our daily life.
Sure, but that has been striking how clear that was from both your presentations. There are lots of compliments flowing in about your presentations and appreciation for those. Professor Aideen O'Doherty from the DCU Business School raises another dimension to this question. She would be interested to hear both your views on the recent ruling of the Dutch court. I think it was just yesterday, that Shell will now be required to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions in line with the Paris Agreement. We know too that the German government, for instance, has been ordered by its courts to change certain policies. Do you think that similar cases could happen in Ireland? David, may I turn to you first, please?
So I'm not familiar, I haven't read that judgment, but it's not surprising. I mean, look, as I say, the new capitalism is here. It's inexorable. Somebody once described regulation that it moves with glacial speed, but also with the inexorable weight. It won't stop moving. And this is only moving in one direction. And that's why companies need to get on board. And I think most companies are on board. And in companies, and this isn't about a public sector or a private sector company. In many ways, I think the private sector companies are every bit as active in this space. And everybody is grappling with and trying to find the ways to deliver sustainability. I think what we're seeing is that there's a sufficient change happening in society whereby our customers are demanding it. It was more difficult 5 years ago when you were trying to say to customers, can you inconvenience yourself in some way? Or will you pay a little bit more? That's a much more difficult thing to do if they don't believe in sustainability. That's why the advocacy is so important, so that our customers believe in it. And look, it's a generational thing. Millennials believe in it. Gen Z absolutely believe in it. And all the research is there. So I think the markets drive us there. I think we know ourselves we want to get there. But if none of that is happening, yes, I think there will be government action at certain points with companies, particularly around waste. I think for us, an interest in what Bastien was saying around circular economy, that for us is the most difficult piece. How far are we responsible? How many moves up the supply chain, say into China, where we've an office in China, how responsible are we all the way up there? We're not a manufacturer like Decathlon, and we're just a distributor. So those are the sort of issues that we have to grapple with. But yes, I think there will be places.
Thank you, David. Bastien, may I turn to you for some, I'm afraid, brief closing remarks, because we're up against the time constraint. Bastien, please.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Sorry.
Do you want to add to anything that David has said on this topic? But I'm putting some time constraints, I'm afraid, because we're nearly out of time. Yeah. Yeah,
I haven't read this news neither, so I can't get a position on this. And anyway, it's not. I don't feel very easy to get a position on such a political thing. What I would like to say is that I think we all have a part to do. For sure, the private sector is, the bigger the company are, the more responsibility we have, and the time flies very, very fast. We are conscious about that, and I think David mentioned it very well. But the circular economy is the next point to address very, very quickly, because anyway, we will have to find ways to compensate the production and all the gas emission we have. It will be not only a question of hiring for us, developing a more car space for electric vehicles. We have already that, and that will not be enough, unfortunately. So I think we are on the same boat with David, and we are partnering already on some business parts.
Oh, great. Thank you. Well, thank you both very much indeed. And I think we're in both Bastien and David's indebtedness for their insights that they've provided to us. I apologize that we haven't been able to get to all of the questions, but for me, it's certainly clear that the business community has a vital role to play at the forthcoming COP26 and during the so-called climate decade. I expect that other business executives will follow your example and seize the potential of decarbonising business models, not only for the protection of our communities, but also for the company's bottom lines. The next session of this conference will commence shortly at 11:15. Mary Robinson will deliver the keynote address on the role for community engagement in climate justice. We will also see presentations on solutions to land degradation in the Sahel and a new way to track the carbon footprint in the fashion industry. If you haven't yet registered for this session, you can follow the Zoom link, which you will now see, I gather, in the discussion box on your screen. Thank you to our audience, thank you to our speakers, and see you at the next session of this conference. Good morning.